Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Call of the Night Season 2, Episode 3. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, I'm going to start off with something I just want to talk about because I don't want to end up forgetting it. It's probably going to be boring because a lot of this is probably stuff people already know, but because I was watching like an episode of Otaku Anonymous like maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago or something like that, and the conversation about Creepy Nuts came up because they didn't do this season of Dandadan's like opening, and I think it was Danny that brought up because Creepy Nuts does a lot of music for Call of the Night. Obviously the intro and outro of both last season and this season. I realized that last episode, but I completely forgot to talk about it when I was recording it. Also, they do other music, so obviously other music that's popped up in there that's like actual songs and not just like score music, but like actual songs. That's them as well. But Danny had brought up the fact that he was pretty sure that Kotayama, the mangaka for Call of the Night, was inspired by Creepy Nut song. So that song is a little bit older than I kind of thought it was. And Kotayama, he got permission from Creepy Nuts to use it because like the song because it's actually the outro song of season 1. It's called Call of the Night. I mean, it's literally, Call of the Night in Japanese. But that's what led to eventually Creepy Nuts being connected on the regards of like being able to make music for the show. Their songs being used for the intro and outro, but also like, also supplying music for like in show as well. Once again, it's probably not that interesting. It's probably stuff people already knew, but I thought it was interesting, so I just wanted to kind of comment on that really quickly. Either way, getting into the episode, we actually have this cold opening where we have Anko. Okay, so I have no idea where I'm going to put this in the recording. I'm recording this well after the fact because when I went back to get some screenshots from the episode, I ended up rewatching the cold opening and saw that, I was completely wrong, and I retroactively made the person at the beginning of the episode was wearing a nurse's outfit. They super weren't. It's a dead guy, and it's Anko over top of him, and it's a younger Anko because she's wearing like a school uniform. So it's most likely her dad. So either the scenario is Kiku, because it seems like this all kind of revolves around her. It probably leans into Anko's like unbridled hatred for her and want to kill her herself. But her dad was killed by Kiku, and that's what was motivating her revenge, and she's taking that out against all vampires because she views them all as the same abominations that need to be wiped out type of situation. So the question then becomes, did Kiku like drain him of everything? Because that hasn't really come up about vampires just draining the person. Because the vampires we've met so far don't kill anyone. They're like, we drink from you, but we let you live. Kiku might be the I'm going to drain you type. And it seems like she's very flippant with like making people into vampires, so that has to be considered as well. Not unless that person did become a vampire and Anko dealt with them, once again, what appears to be her dad, and still has resentment towards, not only did you make my dad a vampire and I had to deal with him, because that guy from last season might not have been the first person Anko's ever come across who didn't drink or want to eat. Like her dad could easily have been like a very religious person that's like, I'm an abomination, I don't want to live, and either killed himself or asked Anko to do it. Like there's a lot we don't know, but it does get the mind wondering about, at least it kind of gives you a little insight into where her mindset was. So once again, I have no idea where I'm going to put this. I might like end up having this be like completely replacing the intro of this recording, and I might just go out and cut every time I reference the nurse at the beginning of the episode, which I hate having to go back and listen to my voice, but it is what it is. So just kind of including this wherever the hell I end up putting it during the recording. Starting with present day, Anko was like, I gotta, the fact of the matter is I almost got in trouble. They would have called the cops because I got behind the counter like that. And it's like, okay, everyone be wary. This is the woman that can kill vampires. And before they could even do anything, she's pretty athletic to be able to do what she's doing. Like some of what she's doing in the intro isn't just like, just intro stuff. It's like, she seems to be a human that's super capable. Like maybe just in her life in general. Well, she is a detective, so she's probably had to like beef herself up. She had to probably learn how to be fast, quick on her feet, especially like if she's been going after vampires for however long. Like this being her mission statement, it might be a thing of she's trained herself to the nth degree. So for what, who knows? Like in a previous life, she would probably already naturally, she could have been an athlete, and she's just applying a lot of those skills to her detective work, or maybe the foundation was already there, and she just amplified it more because of her detective work. But either way, she closes in on Akun, and I guess it is important to remember she did reference, like, she was the one that was talking about his glasses last episode, and in that moment she took his glasses off and then put on his old pair of glasses because she's like, these were yours. And in that moment he's paralyzed, and then she proceeds to shank the hell out of him. She's just like jab, 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 and she's like, oh, you can't even move. She's like, I'm not here to kill any humans, even bringing up to Hatsuka, like, I'm not here for you yet. So the main one she's after right now is Akun, because I think for her, she's like, he's the weakest link. He's the one, because he's the freshest vampire, and I know enough about you because I was looking for you. I know enough of your weakness to utilize it against you. And it's not until, it's like, oh, like, I'm like, I want information. I want to know who's the vampire who turned you. And in that moment, Siri came up out of nowhere. That's really interesting. I wonder, did like Hatsuka like secretly get in contact with her while they were dealing with her, or what? But whatever the case may be, like, maybe she just naturally, because we haven't really covered whether or not there is as I've talked about it previously, it's something from the Vampire Diaries. I don't know if it's in the books too, or is it just something they made up for the show, but like the whole sire link, there is a connection. Like, I forgot how deep that goes, because obviously it's been a while since anything Vampire Diaries related, whether it's Vampire Diaries, the originals, or Legacy. I don't remember if if you made a vampire, could you tell when they're in danger? I don't think that's applicable. But either way, that's why I was wondering, like, could Siri tell that? If she could tell Akun was in trouble or not, but came rushing in. But once again, like, you got to give it to Anko, because she's got those, like, a sixth sense, because she dodges, and then Hatsuka's like, yo, do you really think you got a chance against 3 vampires? Don't you think you're outmatched? And she tries to stab Hatsuka, and the blade goes through. 2 things in that moment. One, my immediate thought was, oh my god, like, is Hatsuka able to get inside her head a little bit? As we know, like, Hatsuka, last season we learned, like, one of his shticks is he likes to really lean into the compulsion angle of things. But that's like with people around him. I was curious, like, if he had done that in this moment, because I'd actually completely forgot, like, right, vampires can phase through objects, because it's only come up like once, and that's like just casually Nazuna like phases through a wall, and she does it again later this episode as a reminder of, oh yeah, they can do that. Because I don't know many like vampire lores that have vampires doing stuff like that. Once again, you always got to relearn vampire lore, because you can apply some elements of previous vampire lore to other stuff, but like some stuff like goes like its own direction, so you always got to remember. Once again, the whole like, do you need to be invited into a place type of thing doesn't seem like that's applicable at all to this vampire lore. But either way, that's what I immediately thought was like that was a compulsion thing, but it's like, no, they can phase through objects. And I love that it's the other thing you learn in that moment is Anko isn't as well versed in vampires, because in that moment she's like, they can do that too. So despite being as researched as she is, even she still has some blind spots. She doesn't have, because even Hatsuka's like, even we don't know all there is to know about vampires, even though we are vampires. And even though they've been vampires for a while, they don't know everything there is. So how could a human? But, she's deadly and dedicated enough, she will. So in that moment, it's like they took the glasses off of Akun, and Hatsuka, like, broke her blade into pieces. And it's like, cool. We're leaving. Like, you kind of have to accept defeat now. Because she's like, wow, you figured out what I did. And Hatsuka's like, yeah, I did. He's like, I wasn't 100% sure, but I had a hunch. Because he's probably been thinking about it ever since last season. Like, once again, that was probably like maybe a week or two ago, a couple nights ago. But because Hatsuka's one of the few that heard Ko's like firsthand experience run-in with Anko back in episode, was that 11? Yeah, episode 11 of last season. So Hatsuko probably like sat on it figuring out like, okay, how did you do that? How did you do that? How did you do that? And it's like, now I figured it out. So let's leave things be as they are. But even Hatsuko's like, right, she made the point to say she's not coming after me now. And then Anko's like, right, I'll accept defeat for now. But before the others can completely walk away, she had to do her villain thing of twisting the knife a little bit. It's like, oh, Ko, how's Natsuna doing? It's like, because she name dropped Natsuna last season as well. Just a reminder of like, oh, you're a little freaked out in this moment. Let's not forget I can get to Natsuna. Also, Mahiru, how about Kiku? And then the moment she said Kiku's name afterwards, she stopped her. She's like, never mind. I was like, Kiku's the one that you have the biggest beef with. And she makes it clear. She's like, I'm going to kill her with my own hands. So you're like, oh, okay. So Kiku holds a lot of your resentment. So, because I think there's also the irritation of she saw like maybe a little bit of like someone I could reach out to and found maybe an ally in all this. And I was curious whether Mahiru was going to go down this route, but it's like, no, he's kind of going down the Ko route, falling for a vampire. And so she was already pretty invested in Mahiru just to keep tabs on him, because she knew like, yo, you are like, I don't know if she already knew about the Kiku of it all, because she probably investigated everyone in Ko's life. So the moment she like met Ko, she immediately did a deep dive onto everyone around him. So we didn't ever saw her interacting with Akira. So Akira could have been talked to, but even then it doesn't seem like she sides. Even with her experience, she doesn't side with Anko, and then the same thing for Mahiru. But it does get you thinking. Like I said, when she like stumbled across Mahiru and the Kiku connection. But either way, Akun gets some blood from Ko, and I thought that was interesting. And so Ko's like, no, go ahead, it's fine. And it's like, and even Siri's like, yo, I'm sorry, like I'm sure Natsuna will be. He's like, it'll be fine, it'll be fine. He's like, no, Natsuna is very protective of what's hers, because like she's the one that discovered Ko's delicious blood, so she's also very possessive. Like, no, he's mine. Especially now, because she's made her like choice of like, I will make you fall in love with me, so you'll be like, so it feels like, even though it's so funny and ironic considering she's the one that was last season all about like, trying to make it seem like she's drinking other people's blood, but then she was like, no, you're the only blood I'm drinking. It's like we are monogamous now. We've got to enter our mutually exclusive phase. And for her, it's almost like, once again, there's a certain intimacy to it. So it's a little bit different because it's Akun doing it, but still it doesn't change the fact it's like, oh, it's almost like you cheated on me in a way. So she's like pissed off the entire scene. It's because Ko's like, yo, don't worry about it, it's not that big of a deal. She's like, it actually is, and then like Hatsuka's like, come on now, calm down. But obviously the conversation leads to us learning something else about vampires, and I think this series does such a great job dropping little tidbits about vampire lore at the most prominent moments. So this is where we have the big conversations that basically vampires forget their human past after a while. And Hatsuka and Siri remember, I think Siri even says like, I remember quite a bit about mine. And Hatsuka's in the same boat as well. But they brought up like, yo, Nico always compared becoming a vampire like being reborn. That basically over time those memories will go away. Now, whether it's like immediate, which it seems like with Akun, like Akiyama, like it seems like that might be the case. But over a long enough period, your memories start to fade away. So that's also the thing of you're being blindsided by something you might not remember is your weakness. So they have to take this time like, yo, we have to find, and Nico gathers up all the vampires like, yo, we need to go out, find everything that's tied to our human past, destroy it or burn it. And also no one goes alone because like we cannot take the chance this lady, because who knows also like she might have a weakness already, but if someone else is there to kind of like alleviate some of that, then like, no, you don't have to be as scared, but you also have to be, because Nico says it herself, it's like, this lady's got us by the throat and I hate that. We need to learn more about our enemy because she might come equipped with carrying stuff that's tied to all of them, because we don't know how much she knows about the vampires in this area. Like, she came prepared enough for Akun, but she also didn't know enough to know that Siri is the one who changed. So it's like, once again, she still has blind spots with this knowledge. But then the conversation shifts over to Nazuna. It's like, how much do you remember about your past? And she's like, nothing. And at first I was like, do you have amnesia as a vampire? And there may be some, and that might correlate with whatever her past was that might have led to that. But it's like, she kind of doesn't remember anything. And so Ko is helping her later on. They're like, because for Ko, it's like, for him, it was like, because Ko, like, he thought about it, but he never really gave it any thought until now, where he was like, have you ever liked that? Does that mean you like someone? And she's like, we don't need to have this conversation because, once again, when it comes to romance, she gets very, like, blushy and stuff like that. But Ko was like, I'd never really given it much thought. Now just seems like the awkward time to ask. But it's like, right. She was a human at one point in time, meaning she fell in love with a vampire. So who was this person she fell in love with? Because that might tie back to her. This person could, if they're still around, give us information about her past, but also could have ties to her weakness. Because it could also be, because the point is that the more, like, essentially the sentimental memories attached with an object will make it have much more effect on you. So that's why I'm curious, like, whoever this person is that changed Nazuna, it's like, were they her first love? Like, what she is first for everything for Ko, I wonder, was this person like that for her? But even she doesn't remember them, so they could still probably potentially use as a weakness for her in the future. I meant to bring this up earlier when I was talking about Anko. Yo, she is so, like, I love, like, she is such a good villain, because it's like every time she pops up on screen, you get the, oh shit, oh no type of feeling. And once again, she does shit like this where you're like, man, she is scary. Like, her just, like, piecing up Aku, like, paralyzing him, and then, like, just stabbing him multiple times. I'm like, she's so scary and so, like, once again, fast. It's like, she's, like, and and they even have that conversation. It's like, it's not ghosts or vampires we have to be worried about. It's a human, which I think is a really interesting element to it. But we'll get to that later on, what that conversation's connected to. But, like, going back to it, Nazuna doesn't remember, even, like, she's like, I don't remember how I got turned, and she's like, even my first memory is so vague at this point in time. And she's like, one of her earliest memories she can remember is like, oh, I woke up in this place. So I was like, wait, have you been living here your entire existence as a vampire? I mean, maybe you lived here prior too. And so that's why I was correlating and wondering too, like, are we going to find out Kiku's the one that turned Nazuna, and that maybe and Nazuna and Anko have a connection, because we finally found out what Nazuna's age is, and she was very reluctant to talk about it, because it's like, oh, like, and she made herself seem way older than she was, because even Ko's like, yo, are you like a century old or something? She's like, if I was 100 years old or something, that'd be 100 or 200 years old, that'd be cool, but really, she's 30 to 40 years old, and she's like, that it's such a realistic human age that she's like, I didn't want you to know, because, like, I didn't want you to feel like weird about liking someone that was basically the same age as your mom. But then, like, Ko was like, oh, that's kind of sweet that she was being, like, very, like, considerate on that front. But yeah, it is really interesting, because it's like, because even Ko's like, yeah, that's a very realistic age. She's like, oh, that's very considerate of you. That is like, because she's like, oh, like, I'm basically an old hag, and it's like, he's like, yo, like, 40's still a young woman, even if you're like on the lower, like, higher end of 30 and you're actually 40, it doesn't matter, you're still fairly young. But the whole shtick is like, when you're young, like, oh my god, you're 30, ugh, oh my god, you're 40, because you might as well drop dead. You're going to drop dead soon enough. It's that whole shtick, especially in, like, anime and manga. But yeah, Ko's got the perspective of, yeah, like, that's perfectly a good age, and it's like, I love that. And ultimately, it is an item they find in, like, a wallet ends up being, like, a patient ID card, but there's, like, only information on it is about the hospital in particular. So it's like, oh, interesting. Because initially Natsuna's like, oh, was I sick? And that's something I've brought up prior to, because I've talked about it, like, with Angel, and it's a little bit there with the Vampire Diaries, but, like, what happens when a vampire gets when a human turns into a vampire while they're sick? And based on Buffy / Angel, if you go back to being human after being a vampire, which isn't applicable in this series, that sickness is still there and you're going to revert, like, basically whatever your constitution was before you became a vampire. They kind of do it as a Vampire Diaries as well. You basically return to that condition before, so that's what I was curious about. So does that mean Nazuna might have been sick and that's why she was at a hospital? Or could she have been at a hospital visiting someone? Because, like, why would she keep that card unless it was her own? Because that becomes part of the conversation. But we'll get to that in a second. The other side of the episode, Siri kept Akun's glasses, and they talk about it. Like, the reason why he kept those glasses because he's slowly already forgetting stuff, even though he's fresh enough vampire, it's still like already seeping in and he's starting to forget. And the reason why these glasses are so significant, these glasses are associated with his first time running in the series and the first moment, the time he remembers when he fell in love with her and he's scared to lose those memories. But then Siri's like, you don't have to worry about it. I'll remember for the both of us. That's the benefit of her being a vampire in this situation. I can remember everything because I might have forgotten stuff as a human, but my memories as a vampire are still clearly here. Which that's what plays into the Nazuna case of her kind of forgetting, even though she is relatively young. She's only 30 or 40, so she's only been a vampire for like a decade or two at most, so anywhere between like a decade or two. So that actually goes back to potentially playing into the whole her and Anko. Like, they might be a lot more contemporary than I initially thought, because I was thinking like Nazuna might be way older, but if she's like 30 to 40, there, because like the medical ID card is from like 30 years ago, so it goes into place like they could be contemporary, but also like once again we don't know what Anko's age is. I don't know if like she's like, because obviously she could look the way she does and be like 40 for all we know, but she's probably like, I'd assume anywhere between 20 and 30, but she could be older. But either way, going back to it, I steered away from it. The Siri and Akun thing is like really beautiful and sweet. And for her to say that, and it's just like, don't cry. And that moment where it just seemed like he was like tearing up and it falls and then like it shatters. That's why I was initially like, I had to rewind it because it turns out it's the glasses breaking. But I was like, or is that supposed to imply like vampires like cry tears that like are like, not diamonds, but like are like ice. You take something like, I don't remember. It's been a while since I saw season 1 of the Interview with a Vampire, and I haven't seen the movie in like forever. And even then, I saw bits and pieces, but still need to watch season 2. But I distinctly remember in True Blood, vampires cry tears of blood. I just don't remember if they do it in Interview with the Vampire or not. I don't think they do, so I think that might just be a True Blood thing. Either way, the reason why we're bringing that up, that's why I was wondering, like, is that supposed to be like vampires' tears become like crystals? Or was that just like an artistic direction just to be like, oh, the tears are falling, but at the same time, like, the glasses are being broken. So Siri's like, yo, come on, let's go. Like, let's go, like, enjoy the night. And it's like, oh, what do you want to do? And he's like, anything that's fun. So it's kind of like get their minds off of things, but also let's not like be held back. But also like, well, we also need to the best item that would be Akiyama's weakness. There will be others, but there will never be anything as strong as those glasses. So, but once again, you still have to be wary of everyone else's weaknesses still being out there. So that's also the thing. Like, if you don't, like, there could be deeper memories tied to certain items that you might not remember. You'll remember up to a certain point of your life and get rid of some of those sentimental things or things that would make a weakness out of you. I did forget to talk about the fact is I did nail that. I mean, it's pretty obvious, but I thought that was so interesting. Like, that ties into that too, like, of like objects being, like, stuff tied to you as a human being your weakness. Once again, the ring, it makes sense. Like, most likely either his wife died pre or post him being a vampire, or maybe he just abandoned her post him becoming a vampire because it's like, I can't control this, I need to get away from her type of situation. So, and it brought him back to his humanity, and like that is able to like basically stick them in place long enough that all she had to do was wait for him to like stand out in the sun. I mean, granted, Akun like got stabbed up. It's not enough to kill him, but all she would have had to do was keep him there long enough for the sun to come up. And you're sure, but she's also making a point. But who also knows, like, what are the means she could have gone through to kill him? We've only seen her on screen kill one vampire, so she might have other means to, like, inflict enough pain to kill you, or at least do enough damage to you to paralyze you till the sun comes up, you know. That's the benefit of facing only one vampire at a time. You can really prepare for that. And maybe there's something with her blood. The fact is the guy reacted the way he did. Like I said, she could have, like, already, like, put something inside of herself, knowing, like, once again, she knows, like, certain things about vampires only the vampires know. She doesn't know. But it seems like there's things she knows that even the vampires don't know. Like, once again, they got to learn their enemy and stuff. So, well, so there's all of that. Sorry, I'm a little all over the place. I apologize. But either way, we have Ko and Nazuna go to the hospital, and they're investigating it, and it's like, oh, this is creepy, and then, like, Nazuna's acting weird. He's like, Ko's like, oh my god, is something going on? And then she's like, this place is most likely haunted. And he's like, okay, so let's keep going. She's like, no, seriously. She's like, I've seen a ghost before. The fact that she's like, it was floating. And it's like, oh my god, this is like the 4th floor. And he's like, Nazuna, you float too. But she's like, yeah, but you're not listening to me. It's different. And he's like, yeah. She's like, what, do you not believe? He's like, he has a hard time, like, believing in ghosts and stuff like that, or at the very least, they're not that important to him with what they're focusing on right now. And also, like, I mean, is it that wild to believe in ghosts considering vampires exist, you know? But, like, he's kind of like, you believing in all that haunted stuff, it's kind of like a moot point now of what we're trying to do and investigate. But it's really adorable, her getting so freaked out. Once again, I like that as, like, a cliche. But, like, the reason why I'm bringing it up, like, there's so many, like, JRPGs I've played where, like, that's a stereotype of, like, yo, there's this female character who is definitely afraid of ghosts. Even though they're tough as nails, they're still like, yo, like that. And it's also, like, it's a very funny enough human thing to be like, oh, like, I'm tough as nails, but there's certain things that kind of still creep me out. Oh, I could be big and tough, but I'm afraid of bugs. Type, you know, it's that type of energy and type of thing. I'm trying to remember. I was like, what was I watching recently that came up about characters being scared of bugs? And it's like, oh yeah, detectives these days are crazy. Yeah. Either way, they start hearing some creepy, like, noises, and I was like, there's no way Anko's here, right? I was like, please don't have a run-in with her again this episode. Episode 11 of last season is the only time Ko has ever had multiple run-ins with her in the same episode. Because that episode, he ran into her, like, twice. At the beginning of the episode and at the end of the episode. So, funny enough, like, usually their encounters are, like, just allocated to just one-offs per episode. But I thought it was super adorable. Nazuna jumping on him, being so freaked out, but he's like, yo, we got to find out, like, what this weakness of yours might be. Like, your past might be associated with this place, so we have to go. And so they go to a higher floor, and they go to a room, and they find Kabusa there. We had just heard from Nico and them, and like, yo, the reason why she isn't with them is because she's at work, and now we find out what she does. She's a nurse, but I'm like, this hospital, I guess it's just, at first I almost thought like it was a rundown hospital, but it seems like, no, it's still a hospital in use. I'm like, it is interesting that, like, no one else is here. That's kind of interesting. Like, are you the only nurse on staff or whatever? Like, why is that? Like, why didn't they run into literally anyone else? No other nurses, no one behind the desk. Like, people work in shifts, so there's no way the hospital would be as empty as that. Like, what about the rooms? Like, why is only your room in, like, that's the only room that had light coming on, but was the one she was in? So I'm like, that's interesting. And so Ko and her are there being like, yo, we're trying to find out about this ID card. But Kabuza, you knew she was, like, hiding something because she was like, yeah, that could belong to someone else, blah, 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 blah. She was making excuses, and Ko's like, yo, like, none of that makes sense. Like, why would you hold on to something that was someone else's? It's like, you know something and you're not telling us. Like, whatever it is, like, you, like, the fact is that Kabusa just happens to work at the same hospital that Nazuno has some connection to. It's like, you got to tell us the truth. It's like, we got to learn more about Nazuna's past. And she's like, okay, on one condition. Now, what that condition is going to be interesting to see. Because like for her to be so reluctant means like she must have known Nazuna maybe back when she was human. Maybe not necessarily that she's the one that turned Nazuna. Once again, it might have been Kiku, maybe it been someone else, but or maybe it's because Kabusa knows that the person who turned Nazuna is dead, and maybe that's why I'm like, I don't want to bring up such a painful history. You seem fine and okay because you don't remember. Like, do I want to drudge up that painful past? But you guys gotta be armed with your past if you're going to face off against Anko. I mean, we have no idea how long Kabusa's like been working at this hospital, but the cold opening to this episode, Nazuna's tied to this hospital. And then Kabusa having to work here, there's some connective dots here. It's going to be really interesting to see what the next episode has in store for us with all of this. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.